these plays off.
All right, we got Mary Kay, the technical difficulty straightened out, hopefully.
Okay.
Mary Kay?
Oh, are we going to ask
I'm
her?
here.
Yeah. You start with that.
So Mary Kay, this is just hypothetically. So I was sitting there, I asked my dad, I said, he just popped in my head, I said, what if it's like the Super Bowl, right? And two teams are playing, one team is up like maybe 4 points. They throw the ball on the goal line, and it's intercepted. The other team is running back. There's nobody in the way. They're going to win this game because it's going to be a pick six. If a coach leaves the sideline and tackles the guy and the clock is expired at 0, what would the NFL do? Would they give them the points? I don't know a case where they've they've never awarded points based on what they thought would happen. What would happen in that case if there's no time, they tackle them? What would they do?
But what do you think they do?
I'd probably call a penalty and, no play, run the play over.
Wow. Well, but that would,
that would just basically give that team the game, right? Like we intercepted the football. If they say the clock is done, we call the penalty, we run the play again, right? Mm-hmm. So that basically, I guess it does get the other team. That's that gives insane. The other team to win.
I don't know, Mary Kay, but the way this season's gone, I guess anything could happen. We could see that in the Super Bowl because the Browns season's just been absurd. Mary Kay, like you think about, I know this has been talked to death, but I just said yesterday, if you had been in a coma and you woke up today and I said, okay, let me tell you about the Browns, you try to guess their record. Joe Flacco is their quarterback. He came off the couch and has played the last 3 weeks. They lead the league, or they're second in the league in turnovers. And they have more injuries than every team but the Texans and the most money on injured list. And I gave you just those facts, and I said, what's the Browns' record, you think? You'd probably guess, 3 wins, 4 wins? I mean, not much more than that. It's mind-blowing how good a job I think Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry have done to steer this ship in the right direction with all the adversity they've had to deal with.
I agree with you on all of that. And I would also add in there, if you told me that they lost the turnover battle in 9 games, I would not believe that they have a 9-5 record. So, yeah. But here's the other thing to think about. And you know what? I mean, this is, it's just the reality of the season. And that is, if Jake Moody and Darnell Mooney had done their jobs at the end of games, and if Mooney had hung on to the ball instead of it popping off of his lap the other day, and if Jake Moody in the San Francisco game just makes the 41-yard field goal, then the Browns are not even in the playoffs right now. So that's the razor-thin margin for failure and success this season. So, yes, they've done a tremendous job, and they deserve all the credit that they're getting. But by the same token, what would we be saying if those things just went the other way? Again, they deserve all the accolades they're going to get. But they've also gotten lucky a few times. What if the calls that went their way at the end of the Indy game didn't go their way, right? And those things have a tendency to even out over the course of a season. But I think those little breaks that you get in a game, I think they've had their fair share this year.
No doubt.
Mary Kay, I look at the offensive line up front, and you have Wyatt Teller. He's the last man standing, and I came out and said, look, man, the Browns are gonna have to win a different type way. Usually, I would say run the ball and make sure that you can keep this game, balanced. But I don't know, man. Maybe I'm thinking that they got to run trick plays. They got to throw the ball. Maybe Joe Flacco's arm is the best way to win these football games. Do you think, as constituted, this offensive line is going to be able to continue to run the ball, or are they going to turn into, we're going to let Joe lead us?
I think Joe throwing the ball downfield, finding the favorable one-on-one matchups, that's going to be their bread and butter the rest of the way. When you have an arm like that, when you've got a guy like that can throw a ball like that, and you've got players like Amari Cooper that can catch it like that, and now you've got David Njoku doing what you need him to do, I think that's what they're going to have to do. That is absolutely what they're going to have to do. And I think going forward, the thing that could possibly hurt them the most is the fact that they aren't going to have their two tackles in there. When you get up against some really, really good edge rushers, it's going to be increasingly difficult. That's where you're going to have to rely on Joe's ability the game is very slow for him, his ability to see what's going on out there and to operate very, very quickly. And then he's also got the arm to get it downfield very quickly. So, I just think that that's what you're going to have to do.
Okay, let's talk about this secondary. I mean, they're dealing with a bunch of injuries. Obviously, Juan Thornhill and Del Pitt is being out. And what is up with Denzel only coming in on third down? Is he not 100% healthy? What is that about?
Yeah, that's just a function of Denzel not really being 100% ready to play yet with the shoulder injury and them kind of easing him back into the lineup. And that's okay. I never have a problem with that. You want to get the most out of him going forward, and you don't want to, waste it all in one game if he's not really ready yet. Juan Thornhill is week to week. They've really taken a hit in the secondary. Fortunately, they've gotten really, really good play from Ronnie Hickman, DeAnthony Bell, because as we know, Grant Delpit is out for the rest of the regular season, and he's going to try like heck to make it back for the playoffs if he can, but we just don't know if that's going to happen yet.
Mary Kay, obviously the running game has been a struggle. We just talked about the offensive line. It's really gone downhill here. Besides the offensive line, is there anything they can do in the running game to get a spark, whether it's use Pierre Strong more because maybe he's a better outside runner? Jerome Ford seemed to be lacking some vision, I thought, last week. Maybe, I don't know, who knows. But I don't know. What can they do? Because right now they're a big-time passing team. I'm kind of enjoying it. And G's like, well, they got to just go with it. I kind of agree with them. But do you think they do have to try to run at least a little more? Or no?
Well, they can try, and they can do some other things. I mean, they can try maybe Marquise Goodwin on a few jet sweeps and some things like that. They can use the shorter passing game as their running game if they have to. So, maybe some more screens and things like that. So, yeah, there will be ways to accomplish what they need to do, and they will find them. And, once again, they've got such an experienced quarterback that no matter what they ask him to do, he's done it all before, and he will be able to accomplish it for them.
Mary Kay, we're looking ahead to this Houston Texans game. What is your biggest concern that the Texans do that you think the Browns will struggle with?
Well, I know they have a good defense. They have a good, sound, aggressive defense. And as I mentioned before, you've got to really keep Joe Flacco as protected as possible right now. Again, he can operate very, very quickly, but you really need to keep him from making bad decisions. He can't be throwing interceptions. And, the first two of those I didn't really think were his fault. It seemed like there was miscommunication between him and Cedric on the first one. And then on the second one, Cedric had the ball popped out of his hands. So, those weren't really Joe's fault. But the thing that probably does concern me the most would be, just the offensive line, just really struggling under the weight of losing all of your offensive linemen. Hopefully for them, they will have Joel Bitonio back this week, but he couldn't even move after the game. And, that was really unfortunate for them. So, I would say that's it. And then if C.J. Stroud is back, and we don't even know that yet, if C.J. Stroud is back, then obviously he's playing so well. He's got 20 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions. He moves well. He is a tremendous playmaker. And, they will have to try to solve, another dual threat quarterback like that without a lot of their defensive weapons.
Yeah, I was just going to go with C.J. Stroud. It's like, I don't know what their game plan would be. Let me ask you this question. Why does it seem like the Browns defense is different? I mean, they move scarily fast when they're at home. What has been the difference between the way they played on the road and the way they played at home?
That's a good question. I don't really know. I don't know if they kind of get fired up at home from the crowd. They keep talking about how the 12th man has been huge for them this year. So there's always crowd noise that you have to contend with and those kinds of things. And some of it is just, who you are playing at home and, when you're catching guys at home. I mean, when they played the San Francisco 49ers at home. Let's remember, I mean, they lost Deebo Samuel very early on in that game. They lost Christian McCaffrey in that game. And, so there have been little things like that that have kind of gone their way. So I think that has had something to do with it as well. Clayton Tune, playing him at home. Those are some of the reasons too.
By the way, C.J. Stroud, as of late last night, had still not cleared concussion protocol. Typically, obviously, as you know better than us, Mary Kay, you usually don't hear anything on Tuesday, but probably by tomorrow we'll have a feel for what Stroud's status is. Mary Kay, do you think at this point, the Browns put in a claim for a defensive lineman? I know the Texans got him. We talked a little bit about it with the offensive line, but do you think they're going to still be aggressive maybe and add more guys off the street or practice squads here in the next couple of weeks?
They probably will. I mean, they're always very aggressive in that way. When you keep losing guys, you have to keep adding. And I'm sure now they're probably going to be looking at some more offensive linemen. They've lost their ability to kind of run some of that big game with Nick Harris at fullback if he's playing center, with Michael Dunn coming in as an extra guy. So, they're going to have to restock that position a little bit and some others. They're going to have to keep an eye on the defensive backfield to see if Grant actually does make it back for the playoffs.
Right.
And now, again, we're waiting to hear about Obo Okoronkwo and whether or not he's going to have the surgery now or try to play some and have it after the season.
Mary Kay, do you know the status of Anthony Walker? I know he was out last week. Is this injury that he sustained in practice something that's long-term, or do you think he'll be back next week?
Well, I know he was tentatively scheduled to speak to the media tomorrow, and a lot of times you only do that if you're planning on playing in the game. So I'm going to say right now that he's probably got a good chance of playing. But we won't know for sure. Again, we don't have much of an injury update until we get out there tomorrow. But yeah, I think that there's probably a good chance Anthony will be back, and that will help because I think Anthony's playing his best ball under Jim Schwartz. I think he's looked really good this year, as are a number of guys, including JOK.
Mary Kay, last thing. The Browns still have a chance to win the division, obviously. They have to win out, and they need the Ravens to lose to the Niners and then to lose to either the Steelers or the Dolphins. Do you think, what percentage chance would you give that of happening? Browns win out, Ravens lose to the Niners and either the Dolphins or Steelers.
Last time I checked, New York Times had predictor had that at about 4% chance of happening. So I'm going to roll with that.
Okay.
So it's not very likely, obviously. But once again, stranger things have happened. Baltimore has a much tougher schedule than the Browns do the rest of the way. I think the Browns can win out. I don't see a game left on the schedule that is not winnable. They could do their part and make that happen. And then they would just need Baltimore to falter. So, not ruling it out, but again, it just will not be easy.
All right, Mary Kay, have a Merry Christmas. Thank you for joining us. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right.
Sounds good. Happy holidays, guys.
You too, Mary Kay.